So not too long ago, we all lived in tribes and villages and other sorts of communities. And somehow, without Amazon and UPS and Walmart and Wall Street, we managed to support ourselves just fine, and we're probably still managed to achieve happiness and health. But then things started getting bigger and moving faster. We started bringing in resources from further and further away, until we ended up in this current state of affairs where most of the things that we buy, that we consume, don't even come from our own country, let alone our towns and villages. And meanwhile, the community units that used to support us have largely vanished, and instead we're sort of stuck with this system of globalization. And the first one to admit that at times globalization has its conveniences and advantages, but we're also running into the unfortunate fact that it's actually destroying the planet. And I don't really think that that's an exaggeration. If you examine the current state of affairs, it's pretty grim. We have climate change, which is fundamentally altering this planet in ways that we don't fully understand, but we know are going to be really bad, and are going to continue to get worse as we continue to dump more carbon into the atmosphere. Our water is in serious trouble. Our oceans are suffering from the acidification, overfishing. The reefs are dying. They're full of pollution from oil and plastic and agriculture, and additional problems. And freshwater obviously is suffering some of those main those same things. And we know from our battle against hydrofracking that that's a threat right here in New York. So the forests around the world are dwindling. Most of the original forests here are gone, and the soils beneath them are eroding, which is really unfortunate because they grow our food. It's sort of important to have those around. And then there's the toxins, which are everywhere, in our air, in our ground, in the water, and in all of us, unfortunately. And these are just our environmental problems. We're also faced with this growing social injustices, with economic woes, and with this political impasse that really leaves us with little hope of getting any solutions from our government. So we're in trouble. And all these problems, they are not unrelated, but they are symptoms of a system that is on the brink of collapse. We have designed a society that cannot be sustained. And all these things that I just mentioned, they are indicators that it has begun to fail, begun to crumble. And if we don't really significantly redesign the way we do things, change the way we live, things could end up getting kind of bad moving forward from here. And certainly that's already begun. But I'm not actually here to get you guys all depressed and freaked out. You get plenty of that from the media. I'm here to try to give you a vision of a brighter future, of a better tomorrow. And I do think that if this had been like 25 years ago, we probably would have been pretty screwed. But in that time, we've come up with this little thing called the internet, and I think that's really changes everything. Because the internet allows us to spread awareness at rates were not possible before, to build movements. We're starting to see the growth of things like that through, whether it's the Arab Spring or Occupy Wall Street or the tar sands pipeline or the various different petitions that pop up everywhere and are actually really starting to make significant changes in how we do things. But even more so, it provides us with these tools to connect and collaborate and cooperate and coordinate in ways that were just not possible before, and are going to open up some really exciting possibilities. And this is just going to accelerate because we're about to enter a world where, at least in this country, most of us are going to be carrying around the internet in our pockets at all times, at our fingertips. And it's really not just in the United States. I'm going to be focusing mostly on this, but there are all these amazing opportunities in other parts of the world, emerging economies, where access to the internet is going to be way more widespread than electricity. I was just reading a stat last night. In India, they have only 19.7, I couldn't even believe this stat. I checked it up again, 19.7 million people with broadband access, and over 380 million people with access to the internet over their mobile devices. So it's a little different for us here, but in other parts of the world, it's just going to be, as long as you've got the internet in your pocket, like you don't even have computers or running dishwashers and sort of thing. So it's going to really open up some exciting possibilities, and of course, it's a growing trend among youth. If you're over 65, about 8% of you access the web mobily. If you're under the age of 24, it's about 71%. So that's just going to be a trend that's just rapidly growing. So, all right, this slide is a little out of place. I want to talk about some other trends that are happening here that are really going to start shaping the future. The first one, we see a massive change in who we trust as people. When asked, for whose opinion would you respect, who would you believe? You see that from 2011, 2012, there have been major changes in who we trust, and increasingly we're don't have faith in corporations and government, and more so with the people around us, which is a really exciting thing because the people around us have a lot to offer. You can also see these growing trends. I don't know if you can read this, but these are different ages here, age brackets showing how many people are willing to participate in car sharing or home sharing, which I'm going to be talking about later. Again, very much popular as you get towards younger people. And this is some results of a recent study that have asked people to think about where they're basically shifting attitudes towards consumption and ownership. And you can see that increasingly people are going to be getting things through peer-to-peer networks rather than through these traditional systems of retail service providers, or moving more towards shared access instead of ownership. So we're also going through changes in the way we use money, and we've got this old cash system which has its problems. I'm not really going to get into them, but first we're going through obviously the transition where more and more people are just carrying around credit cards. But I'm talking about something a lot bigger than that. These two graphics down here illustrate different virtual currencies. One's called a Bitcoin, and that's very popular. Another one's called Producia, which is something that a friend of mine on the web is doing down in Richmond, trying to create a barter-based marketplace with this currency. There's going to be more and more things like this popping up. Obviously, we have the Ithaca Hours, and they also are now working to create a digital currency that we're going to be able to exchange online, which will really start to make these transactions a lot easier rather than having to carry around this additional this paper money. Just being able to do this online. And even more exciting is the fact that we may not even be doing it online. Like, we're going to be bringing out our cell phones, near-field communications, and allow us to directly make transactions through little devices that check out things, or just from peer-to-peer, like bumping cell phones together. I just sent you $20 or something, or 20 Bitcoins, or 20 whatever it is. So that's really changing as well. And I think I spend a lot of time thinking about what all these things are going to add up to, as we have these environmental and social economic pressures combined with these rising technological possibilities and these shifting attitudes towards trust and consumption. Where is this all going to go? And I think it's going to lead to the next economic revolution. I mean, we had a revolution 150 years ago that was fueled by the access to cheap energy, and I think we're beginning the next one right now that is going to be fueled by the internet and social media. And I'm not talking about e-commerce. That's a way that we sort of made the current economic system work a little better and make it more accessible and whatnot. This is an entirely new way of engaging with our economy, where we're going to be relying on each other, our communities, the resources around us, less so than this global system that currently supports us. So I'm just going to jump back a couple slides because it's out of order. Anyway, so what do we really need to do if we want to start? I'm offering this solution as a way to fix a lot of things, environmental, social, economic problems. Those are big issues, and I think the way that we're going to do that is by rebuilding communities, revitalizing local economies, and making it, again, so we can support ourselves, each other, rather than the system that is causing so much harm on the planet. I think we need to remember how to buy and sell and share and trade and rent and give to the other people around us, like we used to do in the old days. And obviously, we already know how to do this. We used to do this. This is not some new concept that I'm like, remember how to trade. That's how we did it for a long time. But the thing is, we're going to be able to do these things so much better once we return and remember how to engage in those sorts of transactions because of this technology. And these new tools would allow us to facilitate things in ways that were just not even close to possible before. And again, this is not some sort of abstract, unattainable goal. It's something that's already underway. As you can see from some of the stats I was giving you, we're culturally undergoing this shift away from our legacy of overconsumption and ownership, and moving increasingly to a society that's going to be defined by access to things and by sharing. So a lot of people are calling this movement collaborative consumption. Other people call it the sharing economy. I like to refer to it as the peer-to-peer economy because I think that really accurately reflects the fact that we're, again, going to be helping each other. So I want to give you guys a couple examples of how technology is starting to facilitate these things. Have any of you here heard of Airbnb? Anyone? Nobody? Well, we got one taker. Okay. You're probably all going to hear about it soon, and I imagine in a few years start using it if you haven't already, because it's a really cool thing. It's going to already change the way people travel. This is a picture of so Airbnb is a peer-to-peer housing marketplace, which effectively allows anybody with an extra space, a room, to rent it out to somebody who would like to stay there for a night or a week or whatever it may be. And it's really great for travelers because suddenly you have all these opportunities to stay in new neighborhoods, new places, more diversity of the sorts of locations you can stay in and the quality of them, and often at a much lower rate than you can get from a hotel or a motel. And meanwhile, if you're a property owner, this is suddenly this amazing new way to gain extra income. So this is an example of, or a diagram of the Airbnb rentals in Manhattan. You can see it's available on every block in Manhattan. You can find a place to stay. So no matter where you're going, you got somewhere up, downtown, midtown, you can just find a place, stay there for a night, stay there for a week. I was down in Social Media Week for a week, and I had this great whole bottom floor of an apartment out in Brooklyn. It was just a 20-minute ride in New York. I paid $50 a night, and it was a great deal. And then I had my own great huge bed, bathroom, little kitchenette, and then have somebody coming in, changing my sheets and doing all the kind of environmental waste that's doing at the hotel. So it's a really great example of how collaborative consumption is going to open up these new possibilities and sort of allow us to tap into these latent assets in our community, in our lives. In this case, it's space. It's a space that's not being used, and suddenly it's an income stream. This is going to be happening not just with rooms to rent, but a parking space in your driveway. Like if you live right downtown and you've got this driveway that's great, rent that out to somebody that doesn't want to pay the parking garage, or you've got land in your yard that you don't have room to garden, but somebody that wants to garden there. Great. So the storage space is another thing. We've got this huge storage industry that's popping up everywhere. I'd much prefer to store my stuff in my neighbors if I have to do that. That's so much more convenient and cheaper, right? While my neighbor makes some money. So really exciting stuff. I'm going to go back to this slide. I'll show you this one first. This is peer-to-peer car sharing and ride sharing, which will really make a lot of impact in the way we travel. Peer-to-peer car rental, basically, instead of renting a car from Hertz or I don't even know where the rental places are, you just whip out your cell phone, you find somebody in your block that allows you to rent your car for a few hours, you use it, bring it back, you give them a little money, they make a little money, and you don't have to own a car. Or maybe you just find somebody that's already going in the direction you're going, and you engage in ride sharing. 80% or so of all spots in a car are vacant at any given time, so this is a way to just, obviously in this area we've got other arteries coming into town, and most of the cars maybe have one or two people in them. It's just a really big opportunity. So this is going to change the way fewer people are going to own cars, and those people that do, again, now have a way to monetize something, or not necessarily monetize, but leverage, make use of an asset that sits around for 98% of its life